Southeast Georgia and the Lowcountry. This is WJCL 22 Morning News. See us now.
Well, it is 6:01 on your Friday Eve. I'm Ashley Garrett. Let's get straight to that certified most accurate forecast now with meteorologist Jonathan Myers. And Jonathan, some of us waking up to 30-degree temps.
Yeah, some spots even close to freezing this morning. Ashley, like in Hampton right now, 32 degrees. So definitely chilly outside. Need that coat on this morning as you head out the door for work. And you're seeing many of us anywhere between about 38 degrees closer to the coast there from Richmond Hill to Ridgeland, 37 Sylvania, Pembroke, also 39 in Glenville. And we're seeing mid-upper 40s there closer toward the coast. And here's that rain back off to our west all week long. We've been advertising a good chance for rain on Thursday night, and that's exactly what's going to happen. That is headed our way. A good part of the daytime today is looking mainly dry, especially this morning into the early afternoon. But late this afternoon, we'll probably about 3 or 4 o'clock, we'll see some showers will begin to develop, and the rain becomes likely as we go into the evening. So umbrella at times later this afternoon, 62 for highs, and definitely will need that raincoat if you're going to be out later this evening. Do expect to see some downpours a little later today. So that rain for tonight, some spots could pick up maybe over 1/2 of an inch. But after we get through Friday, how about some dry weather? But it's going to be chilly for the weekend. I'll detail that. We'll go time out those rain chances in future casts in less than 10 minutes.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Georgia rise?
Mr. President, myself, members of the Georgia delegation, and some 74 of my Republican colleagues, and I object to the electoral votes from the state of Georgia.
After a day filled with chaos that turned deadly as protesters flooded the U.S. Capitol, Congress was finally able to gather and confirm the votes of the Electoral College late last night. Just a little while ago, Congress confirmed President-elect Joe Biden's victory. Now, some Republicans did go through with their plan to object to the votes. Georgia's votes were objected based on false claims of voter fraud, but that objection was denied.
Is the objection in writing and signed by a member and a senator?
Mr. President, prior to the actions and events of today, we did, but following the events of today, it appears that some senators have withdrawn their objection.
In that case, the objection cannot be entertained.
Several Republicans objected to the results of other states besides Georgia. They challenged Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin's results. Congress had to discuss the objections of Arizona, Pennsylvania, but the others were dismissed because they didn't have the proper signatures. The objection to Georgia's votes failed because Senator Kelly Loeffler withdrew her signature. And now to those extraordinary and unbelievable scenes that unfolded at the U.S. Capitol after pro-Trump demonstrators breached security barriers and entered the building. 4 people now dead, 52 arrested. ABC's Faith Abube is in Washington with the latest.
Overnight, a joint session of Congress ratifying the Electoral College votes in the presidential election. The move certifying President-elect Joe Biden's decisive win as he prepares to take office in less than 2 weeks.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will be the president and the vice president according to the ballots that have been given to us.
And it comes after a tumultuous day at the U.S. Capitol, a symbol of U.S. democracy attacked by violent pro-Trump mobs and left in disarray. The image is hard to watch. Demonstrators scaling walls, breaking through security barriers, smashing windows, and storming restricted areas of the U.S. Capitol, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office. The Trump supporters forcing lawmakers to take cover in fear of their lives. Pictures show armed Capitol Police outnumbered, guns drawn and barricading doors as the chaos unfolded. D.C. police telling ABC News 1 woman and 2 men suffered medical emergencies and later died. Another woman shot and killed during a standoff inside the Capitol. The chaos forcing lawmakers to break from what should have been a quiet day, ratifying the Electoral College votes in the presidential election. Instead, as the joint session of Congress convened, President Trump urging his supporters during a rally to head to the Capitol.
You'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength and you have to be strong.
As the supporters breached a building, multiple sources tell ABC News Trump rejected calls to bring in the National Guard, only signing off after White House officials intervened for the sake of the country. 3 people inside the White House resigning over the violent display. And now some talk, according to ABC News sources, among cabinet members to remove Trump himself from office. Lawmakers from both sides of the political aisle, shaken but undeterred, returning to the chamber overnight to finish their work. Even some some Trump allies dropping their objections to certifying Biden electors.
I will stand with you tonight. That is to transfer power in a peaceful way.
And despite the violence overnight, some House Republicans objected to certifying Electoral College votes from swing states Joe Biden won, but those efforts again failed. Faith Abube, ABC News, Washington.
Just to recap, 4 people did die, including one woman who was shot on the grounds of the Capitol. One witness saw that happen, and he describes it as shocking.
We were literally going to shoot to kill. The second that she climbed through the window, she got shot like right in the neck area, fell backwards. And I just remember like the sense of shock and sorrow that somebody just died and didn't not need to die because she didn't have a weapon.
Say dozens were arrested, some 52 people, those folks involved with the riots that were arrested. This morning, South Carolina lawmakers are reacting to the riot that erupted at the Capitol. WJCL's Daniel Robinson joins us now with what lawmakers are saying. Daniel, good morning to you.
Hey, Ashley, good morning to you as well. Now, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are condemning what they saw at the United States Capitol. Now, many say that while they do support peaceful protests, what they saw in the Capitol was anything but that. Now, Governor Henry McMaster, who is the governor here in South Carolina, did release this statement that you can see there on your screen. Now, it did say in part that we should be alarmed, but also deeply saddened. Protest is honored, but violence cannot be tolerated. Senator Lindsey Graham, who has been a supporter of the president, saying on Twitter that he does support peaceful protest, but not violence and destruction. Now, at the time of the riots, he did release a tweet that did say, quote, "People need to leave the Capitol now. This is a national embarrassment." Graham later taking to the floor amid the debate on certifying Electoral College votes and did urge Vice President Mike Pence to certify President-elect Joe Biden as the next president.
I think it's a uniquely bad idea to delay this election. Trump and I, we've had a hell of a journey. I hate it being this way. Oh my God, I hate it. From my point of view, he's been a consequential president. But today, first thing you'll see. All I can say is count me out. Enough is enough. I've tried to be helpful.
And my worst fears came true today. This is a sad day for our nation. I'm heartbroken. I'm disgusted and I'm angry. And enough is enough. This needs to stop. It needs to stop right now, tonight. We need to end it.
And that was Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who does represent the 1st Congressional District here in the Lowcountry. The newly sworn-in representative did have to evacuate her office near the Capitol when the riots first started. Now, following those remarks that you just heard, she did go on to the House floor and voted to certify the election results. Democrats are also responding this morning. Congressman and House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn did say on Twitter last night, quote, "I have faced violent hatred before. I was not deterred then, and I will not be deterred now. Tonight, Congress will continue the business of certifying the Electoral College votes, which they did." Now, several other lawmakers across the entire state of South Carolina, from the upstate to the Lowcountry, are responding, including Joe Cunningham, who recently lost his seat to Nancy Mace, showing his disappointment for what happened on the Capitol, Ashley, as well as showing support for the U.S. Attorney for the District of South Carolina, who says anyone who did violate or commit a crime during those riots who traveled from South Carolina to Washington, D.C. will be prosecuted. Ashley?
Daniel, before you go, we understand Representative Mace even sent her kids home before the incident.
Ashley, that's correct. Nancy Mace did have her kids with her when she was in Washington to be sworn in over the last week. And she did say during an interview and on Twitter that she sent her kids home on Monday because she was scared of what happened. She did release a picture on Twitter, Ashley, of her FaceTiming her kids so she could show them that they were okay. But Mace said that she was glad that her motherly instincts kicked in and that she sent them home so they were not there when that happened. Ashley?
I'm glad they kicked in too. Daniel, thank you so much. Time check this morning at 6:10, and Congressman Buddy Carter is also responding to the chaos on Capitol Hill. Our Jessica Batista asked him if he played a role in what happened after announcing he would oppose the election results.
Well, I think there were a number of things. Obviously, that's why they chose today. They knew that the electors were going to be certified, so obviously it had something to do with it. However, it would be unfair, and I think it would be wrong to equate the two, to say that, one has something to do with the other. certifying the electors, that is the responsibility of Congress, and debating that and having the right to object to that, again, is the responsibility of Congress. That's what we're supposed to do. And if it was just carte blanche, that we were just supposed to let it go through and not question it at all, then why would we do it? Why wouldn't we just do it by unanimous consent? But that's not the way that our forefathers had it set up. They had it set up this way for a reason.
Several of President Trump's top aides are considering resigning after yesterday's riot at the Capitol. CNN reports one of those officials is the National Security Advisor. The Deputy National Security Advisor and Deputy Chief of Staff are also considering resigning. Many officials say they're angry with the president for egging on his supporters and then justifying the riot. Protests popped up at Capitol buildings all across the country, including Atlanta. Dozens lining the street, waving flags, and armed militias surrounding the building. Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger and his staff were all evacuated from the Georgia State Capitol. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp is condemning the violence in D.C. as well as the protests in Atlanta, calling them a disgrace and un-American.
It is unimaginable that we have people in our state and our country that have been threatening police officers, breaking into government buildings. This is not the Georgia way, and it is not the way of our country.
Well, speaking of Georgia, and on a much lighter note, Georgia is waking up with 2 new senator-elects this morning. Our Emma Hamilton is live in Savannah with a look at those races. Emma, good morning.
Hey, Ashley, good morning. Well, Georgia is making history by electing 2 Democratic candidates to the United States Senate to represent the peach state. The Associated Press has called both of these races this morning, declaring Reverend Raphael Warnock and Jon Ossoff as the winners. Warnock will be Georgia's first black senator and will be the first senator from Savannah in 150 years. This all comes after President-elect Joe Biden's win in the state during the November election, which has continued to spark outrage, including just yesterday when protesters stormed the Capitol building in D.C. as Congress was attempting to certify the Electoral College results. Senator Kelly Loeffler was among the many planning to object Biden's win in support of President Trump.
The violence, the lawlessness, and siege of the halls of Congress are abhorrent and stand as a direct attack on the very institution my objection was intended to protect, the sanctity of the American democratic process. And I thank law enforcement for keeping us safe.
Loeffler ended up withdrawing her objection in response to yesterday's protests.
So, Emma, have we heard from Loeffler or Purdue's campaigns about their loss?
As of this morning, Ashley, we haven't, and neither senator has conceded. Ashley?
Emma, thank you so much. Well, the Georgia runoff election is facing some challenges as well. The Chatham County Board of Registrars is holding a special meeting today at 4 for an emergency hearing over challenges to absentee mail-in ballots. This meeting is open to the public through a conference call. The information, you can see it right there on the left-hand side of your screen.